There's unequivocal evidence that if our country is going to be successful, we need to get dramatically more poor kids through high school, to persist through high school and into post-secondary education. The consortium has helped us understand how you do that.
Identify the problems and understand what are the factors that feed into these problems.
Doing really rigorous data-based work to inform practice, policy, and the public.
Make sure that the various constituencies don't feel blindsided by consortium research, that enough people know what's in the pipeline.
It helps us focus on the things that matter and the things that really will have the best impact and the most powerful impact on student achievement.
We connect very closely with people in schools and people making decisions about schools.
Ensuring that all students are on target for college and career readiness before high school.
So they go into high school with some skills. Well, the consortium started very small. It started a very exciting time in Chicago with school reform that decentralized Chicago public schools. It felt that there were a lot of small research organizations that were really interested in studying Chicago public schools, but there wasn't enough real capacity to do a big, credible study that the public would really understand. So we brought people together to try to forge an alliance among them.
I think the other thing that actually helped the consortium, although no one could have foreseen this at the time, was that the fact that its early reports were attacked by the powers that be in the city, right? And they were attacked not on intellectual grounds, not on methodological grounds. They were attacked because they were criticizing policies that people were invested in. So in that period, I think people saw the consortium being beaten on all the time by the powerful, and it stuck by its guns, right? And in a city in which it's always assumed that everything and everybody is political, right? It looked like the consortium wasn't political. Right? I think it earned enormous capital in those days.
Part of the responsibility of the steering committee members is to react to the research and to ask questions from their varying perspectives, and then being able to push the staff members of the consortium further.
We're really trying to understand the problems that face the practitioners and the policymakers. Even though we try to be theory grounded, we're much more interested in the real day-to-day workings of schools and policymakers.
At the end of the day, trying to create a new model for what the role of a university is and could be in improving the quality of pre-K through 12th grade education for children growing up in urban America. Taken together, applied research, school practice, human capital, and innovation, these are the things that have to get addressed.
The freshman work and the importance of their grades during the freshman year towards finishing high school and towards finishing college has really forced teachers to make a closer look at what's happening for them in the classrooms. I think we all used to work in a vacuum of sorts, such that you don't necessarily see the impact of what you do in the classroom and how that affects students 4 years later, 6 years later, 8 years later.
I mean, the first thing I think of is the constant conversation with practitioners, right? The on-track indicator. I think that's a direct reflection of all the conversations with principals and with CPS personnel who are trying to get a handle on a problem. Something like the FAFSA focus, right, would not have come up in ordinary theoretical academic research, right? It comes up when people are almost forced by the fact that they're a part of a practitioner community to think about the issues through the eyes of practitioners who want practical tools. They want things they can do on Monday morning.
We see ourselves in a partnership with the Chicago Public Schools, although we insist upon having independence so that we can be objective. We're studying some of the issues that they think are most important. But at the same time, we also want to step back and say, well, what do we see as some of the big issues that the school district is facing that they may not be thinking of?
I think of the consortium as having been a kind of bulwark against programitis, the national tendency to think that if we just define a program, we can stick that program in schools and we can cookie cutter it and everything's going to be all right. One of the underlying messages in the consortium's work is that schools are organizations and they're cultures, right? And if you really want to see deep and long-lasting change, you have to attend to the health of the organization. But if you ignore that, right, then you can wind up spinning your wheels for a long time.
Given the work that I do with students who don't speak English as a first language, particularly with Latino students, I think some of those research reports have been so significant in really shedding a spotlight and trying to get the system then to respond in a more appropriate manner.
The consortium was ahead of its time. The world has caught up in a very promising way. The orientation towards evidence-based practice in education has radically changed in the last 10 years, and that has created a new appetite.
Well, I sure can't speak for Arnie Duncan, but I do think that the successes that he had in Chicago with working closely with researcher would lead him to believe that this might be a model that could be replicated, that this kind of developing a deep knowledge about a school district where you build coherence in your studies and in your findings could be very productive, especially in the larger urban districts across the country that continue to struggle with public education.